Welcome to my video making a hunting knife. The knife is made out of an old circle saw found in Austria. First I cut out the profile with the angle grinder. After finishing cutting out the profile on the angle grinder, I refine it on my belt sander. I want to have my profile as square as possible. I drill the holes for the brass pins and I drill the holes to reduce the weight of the knife. The steel of the circle saw is very hard, so I had to heat it up to 800 degrees centigrade and let it cool off slowly to make it more softer and drill the holes more easily. The circle saw has a lot of scratches on it, so I sand it with a 120 grit sandpaper to make it all flat and smooth. This is the result. With my caliper I mark the center line and attach it to my TR maker. This to find the right angle to grind the knife. For grinding the bevels I use a 80 grit ceramic belt. I like the results so far, nice and even on both sides. I use my checkering file for making finger jimpings at the top of the knife. These files are very expensive, but the result is beautiful. Nice and crisp. Now it's time for hardening the blade. I use propane forge. I heat up the oil first, and when the knife is hot enough, I quench it in heat. Check the hardness of the steel, it is nice and hard. I temper the blade 2 times in 1 hour at 200 degrees Celsius. After that I have to finish off the forge scale with sandpaper. I send this one up to 230 grit. After that I clean up the blade with a 120 grit belt. I use a tricycle belt to make a perfect satin finish. For this knife I want to use Handmade Micarta. First I cut out the pieces of an old jeans. When I have enough pieces I can start the process of gluing them together. I use epoxy to glue them together, and also I use a flat surface. The flat surface is important for later in the process. When you don't use a flat surface, you have to make it flat later on, and that will take a lot of time and a lot of material. I have to let it dry for 3 days. After 3 days the material is nice and hard. Here I am preparing the handles. I want to make them perfectly flat, so I can glue them on the handle later on. Here I'm attaching red G10 liners to the handle of the knife. The glue I'm using is a 5-minute epoxy. This 5-minute epoxy is fully hardened in 1 hour, so I can get on with the process. Now I drill the holes for the brass pins. I like to give the front of the handles a slight angle. Here I'm drilling a lot of holes. This is for the epoxy to get a better bond. I like it to sandblast the steel of the knife. This also makes a better bond for the glue. Now it's time for gluing the handles. This time I'm using a slow hardening epoxy. This epoxy is fully hardened after 8 hours. Now the epoxy is fully hardened, we are able to sculpt the handle. This is a process you don't want to rush. You can always remove more material, but never put it back. Slowly the handle is getting its final form. Most of the work you can do on the belt grinder, but I also like to do it with files and sandpaper. This gives me a lot of control for perfect symmetry. The last step is to sharpen the knife. I like to use a guided sharpening system. And here I show you the finished knife. The Handmade Micarta came out really beautiful. Hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe.